welcome to the deep dive. So you've brought us some really foundational stuff today. We're going to unpack some core principles for, well, navigating human relationships, influence, based on a real classic.
That's right. We're drawing from Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. I mean, this book was huge. Became this massive international bestseller, translated everywhere. It's kind of legendary.
And it wasn't just theory, right? It grew out of, what, 15 years of him testing things in his courses?
Exactly. And those courses started because of this big survey, University of Chicago and the YMCA schools. Cost like 25 grand back then, a 2-year thing.
Wow. And what did they find?
Well, they found that after health, the #1 thing adults wanted to learn about was human relations, how to understand people, get along, influence them. They couldn't find a good practical guide, so Carnegie decided to make one.
Based on real life, interviews with successful folks like Marconi, Edison, FDR, even Clark Gable.
Yeah, all sorts. He really tried to figure out what worked.
So our mission here in this deep dive is basically to pull out the key takeaways from all that wisdom, give you a kind of shortcut to understanding these techniques, and importantly, how you can actually use them.
Okay, so let's start with the bedrock, maybe a slightly uncomfortable truth. The material really hammers home. People generally have a really hard time blaming themselves.
It sounds obvious, but the examples they use are pretty stark. Like Two-Gun Crowley, a killer.
Yeah, cornered by police, gunfire everywhere, and he's writing a note saying, "Under my coat is a weary heart, but a kind one that would do nobody any harm." He claims self-defense.
Wow. And Al Capone, too, seeing himself as misunderstood.
He literally called himself a public benefactor who wasn't appreciated, felt he was just responding to public demand, saw himself as abused, a hunted man.
Okay, so the point is, if these guys facing, prison or worse can't see their own fault,
Then the everyday people you deal with, your colleagues, your family, they're probably not going to blame themselves either when something goes wrong. It's just not how most people are wired. Blaming others or circumstances, that's the default.
which leads right into the first big principle from the material,
Principle 1, don't criticize, condemn, or complain.
because it just doesn't work.
Exactly. It puts people on the defensive instantly. It hurts their pride, stirs up resentment, and you achieve absolutely nothing positive. It actually makes things worse most of the time.
There's that poem in the text, Father Forgets. It's quite moving. This father just regrets ripping into his son all the time for little things.
Yeah, he realizes he was just measuring this little kid against his own adult yardstick, totally missing the good stuff, the love, because he was so focused on the faults. It really shows the damage criticism can do, especially long term.
And the book makes the point that even implying someone is wrong can trigger that same defensiveness.
Absolutely. Understanding that deep-seated resistance is key.
Yeah.
That's why just pointing fingers is usually futile.
Okay, so if criticizing is out because people hate, blame, and crave importance, what's the alternative? How do you connect or, influence things?
Well, this brings us to a really core skill that pops up again and again in the material. It's about honestly trying to see things from the other person's point of view.
Getting out of your own head, basically.
Pretty much. Henry Ford apparently said, if there is any one secret of success, it lies in the ability to get the other person's point of view and see things from that person's angle as well as from your own. That's crucial.
And the source gives examples of where this goes wrong, like those old advertising letters.
Oh yeah, totally focused on we desire or
Yeah.
we want. Nobody cares what the company wants. The reader only cares about their problems, their needs. Those letters failed because they didn't connect with the reader's perspective at all.
Like that guy, Mr. Vermeulen, with the freight terminal letter.
Exactly. The letter was all about the terminal's problems, congestion, delays, overtime. It didn't say one word about how this affected Mr. Vermeulen's company or offer any solution from his perspective. Total fail.
But contrast that with Barbara Anderson looking for a bank job.
Right. She didn't just say, I want a job. She wrote letters focused on how her skills and experience could help the bank achieve its goals, growth, profit. She framed it entirely from their perspective.
And she got interviews at 11 out of 12 banks she wrote to.
See? It works. Shifting your focus to the other person's viewpoint, understanding their interests. It's not just nice, it's incredibly effective.
Okay, so that sets the stage. Understand people resist blame. Understand the power of seeing their side. Now let's get into the more active stuff, how to actually build that connection, make people, well, like you.
Right. And the core idea here taps into something really deep, what John Dewey called the desire to be important, or Freud called the desire to be great. It's framed as maybe the strongest human urge after basic survival needs.
And the argument is the only sustainable way to get someone to do something is to make them want to do it.
Precisely. By appealing to their wants, their desire to feel important. Threats or force might work short term, but they have nasty repercussions. You need buy-in.
Which links to another key principle. Making people like you starts with
Becoming genuinely interested in other people. Principle 1 in that section.
This feels counterintuitive sometimes, doesn't it? We're often so wrapped up in ourselves.
Totally. Remember that study mentioned the word I used thousands of times in phone calls. It shows our natural tendency.
Uh-huh.
But Alfred Adler, the psychologist, he said that individuals who aren't interested in others, they have the hardest lives and cause the most harm. To connect, you have to shift that focus outward, genuinely.
So how does that look in practice? The examples are great. Theodore Roosevelt.
Yeah, not just big policies. He made a point of learning his servants' names, greeting them personally. Imagine the impact of the president knowing your name, asking about you. It showed he saw them.
Carnegie himself did it too, right? Getting authors to speak.
He didn't just demand their time. He showed genuine fascination with their work, their ideas. Made it about them being important and having something valuable to share.
And the bank teller building loyalty.
Not just by being fast. By remembering details, kids' names, asking about their vacation, showing that real personal interest beyond just the transaction. It makes people feel valued, seen as individuals.
That story about C.M. Naffel Jr. trying to sell fuel is amazing too. Failed for years.
Yeah, because he was focused on getting the executive interested in his fuel. Then he flipped it. He found out the guy was involved in a debate, so Naffel went and asked for his help, showed interest in his problem.
Yeah, work.
Like magic, apparently. He built more rapport in 2 hours by being interested than in 10 years trying to be interesting. That's the core lesson there.
So to be interesting, be interested.
Okay.
And a simple, powerful way to show that interest.
Smile. Principle 2. Sounds almost too simple, maybe?
A bit, yeah. But the source really emphasizes its power.
It does. Calls it a messenger of goodwill. It costs nothing but creates so much happiness, approachability. Psychologists apparently back it up. People who smile tend to manage, teach, sell more effectively. It makes people feel better around you.
There's the story of Bill, the grumpy New Yorker.
Right. Forced himself to smile, greet people cheerfully, and it changed his whole life. He felt happier, made more friends, his work improved. It seems our outer expression can actually influence our inner state and definitely how others perceive us.
And it even works over the phone, they say. Your smile comes through in your voice.
Apparently so, that phone power idea. Your tone changes when you're genuinely smiling.
Okay, so genuine interest, a smile.
Mm-hmm.
What's next for making connections?
This one's huge. Principle 3. Remember that a person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language.
The name thing. Why is that so powerful?
Because it singles them out, makes them feel unique, important. It says, I see you. Forgetting or mangling a name does the opposite. It implies they aren't important enough to remember.
Think about Jim Farley knowing 50,000 names. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And it helped FDR politically.
Massively. Or Andrew Carnegie naming the merged company after Pullman, the Pullman Palace Car Company. Huge appeal to Pullman's ego and sense of importance. Secured the deal.
Even small examples, like Ken Nottingham with Eunice the cafeteria worker.
Just using her name. Changed her whole attitude, the service she gave him. It's a simple act of recognition, but it has disproportionate impact.
The source gives tips too, like Napoleon III's method. Ask clarity, spelling, repeat it.
Yeah, associate it with something, write it down if you have to. Making a conscious effort pays off.
Okay, interest, smile, name, and then there's listening. Principle 4, be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves.
This ties back to being interested, obviously. Remember that botanist story?
Where Carnegie barely spoke, but the botanist thought he was a brilliant conversationalist?
Exactly. Because Carnegie listened intently, asked questions, encouraged the guy to talk about his passion. Exclusive attention is incredibly flattering, like Harvard President Eliot said.
The story of Mr. Detmer and the angry customer really drives this home too.
Oh, absolutely. Customer's furious, ready to bolt. Detmer doesn't argue, doesn't interrupt. He just listens, lets the guy vet completely.
And just by listening,
he diffused the whole situation. The customer felt heard, understood. Then Detmer could apologize, talk solutions. The guy ended up becoming a loyal customer and friend. Listening did that.
it taps into that desire to be heard, to talk about what matters to us.
Right. Your problems feel 100 times more important to you than anyone else's. So, if you want to connect, be genuinely interested. Ask questions people enjoy answering about themselves. Listen, it's probably the highest compliment you can pay someone.
So we've covered understanding human nature, resistance to blame, desire for importance, and building connection through interest, smiles, names, listening. Now, the tricky part, influencing others, winning them to your way of thinking.
Yeah, this is where it gets more nuanced. And the first rule builds directly on what we just said. Avoid arguments. You just can't win an argument in terms of goodwill.
Ben Franklin's quote, that poem.
Yeah.
Basically, even if you're right, you lose if you alienate the person.
Exactly. Patrick O'Hare, the salesman, learned that the hard way. Arguing about his trucks got him nowhere. But when he started agreeing first, yes, other trucks might be good in this way, it opened the door. He could then gently introduce his points without a fight.
So no arguing, instead.
Start in a friendly way. That old saying, a drop of honey catches more flies than a gallon of gall. It's true. Approach matters hugely.
Like Rockefeller Jr. with that violent strike.
Perfect example. He didn't go in guns blazing. He spent weeks just making friends, building rapport, then addressed them as fellow associates, emphasized shared goals, presented facts calmly, friendliness first.
Or O.L. Straub wanting lower rent.
Didn't demand it. Started by saying nice things about the landlord, then framed the request around the landlord's benefit, keeping a good tenant, avoiding vacancy, friendly and focused on the other guy's perspective.
And F. Gail Connor with the car trouble.
Same pattern. Went to the owner, praised the dealership's reputation, framed the problem as something that could potentially tarnish that good reputation, appealed to the owner's pride, started friendly, didn't attack. Much more effective.
It seems like a recurring theme. Frame things from their angle, approach gently.
Absolutely. And another powerful tool, especially if there has been a mistake or disagreement, admit your own mistakes quickly and emphatically.
How does that help?
It's incredibly disarming. It shows you're reasonable, not looking for a fight. It often makes the other person want to be fair, maybe even admit their own part. Takes the wind right out of their sails if they were expecting a battle.
Like Carnegie with the policeman about the dog.
Yep. Instead of making excuses, he immediately said, "Officer, you've caught me red-handed. I'm guilty. I know it's against the law." The cop had nothing left to fight against. Ended up being friendly.
Mr. Gall with the angry customer over the delayed shipment, too.
Same thing. First words were basically, "It's our fault entirely. I apologize sincerely." The customer's anger just evaporated. Admitting fault diffuses conflict.
Even the father forgets guy, admitting his past wrongs to his son.
That admission was the bridge. It showed humility, took responsibility, powerful stuff.
Okay, so if you need someone to change or improve, besides admitting your own faults, what else?
Make the fault seem easy to correct. And use encouragement, loads of it. Praise the slightest improvement.
Ah, the dancing teacher example.
Right. First one, you're doing it all wrong. Result, discouragement. Second one, actually, you've got a natural rhythm. This part's easy, just needs a tweak. Result, motivation, desire to keep trying.
Same with the father helping his son David with math.
Exactly. Didn't dwell on the bad grades. Found David's interest TV repair, linked math to that. Made it relevant. Used flashcards, praised every single correct answer, made the process feel achievable and rewarding. Huge difference in confidence and results. Focus on progress and possibility, not just the gap.
That feels connected to the next idea. Give the other person a fine reputation to live up to.
It is connected. If you tell someone sincerely that you believe they have a certain positive trait, fairness, diligence, potential, they'll often strive to prove you right.
Like Marie the dishwasher.
Told she had hidden treasures within, it sparked something. She started taking care of herself, living up to that implied potential.
Or the dentist, Dr. Fitzhugh, with the charwoman and the cup holder.
Didn't just order her to clean it. He said something like, I bet you could make that shine like a mirror. You seem like someone who does things properly. Appealed to her pride, gave her a reputation for excellence to fulfill, and she did.
Okay, so lots of ways to influence positively. What about making people happy to do what you suggest? Principle 9, I think.
Yeah, this is key. People like to feel they're acting on their own ideas, or at least see the benefit for them. Instead of ordering, suggest. Frame it so they see the advantage.
Like Colonel House influencing President Wilson.
Right. He wouldn't push his ideas directly. He'd casually drop suggestions, maybe imply they were thoughts Wilson himself had already been considering. Let Wilson own the idea. Very subtle, very effective. Or telling Brian he was too important for a certain task, making the no seem like a compliment.
And the lady stopping kids running on her lawn.
Mrs. Gent didn't yell. She found the ringleader, made him her official detective in charge of keeping people off the lawn, gave him status, responsibility, made him want to do what she needed.
It's about framing the ask so it aligns with their desires or ego, isn't it?
Exactly. Compare ordering, John, clean the stockroom, versus suggesting, John, if we got that stockroom tidied up, it would really make the place look efficient for visitors, show you're doing your part, and you wouldn't have that big job looming later. Shows him the benefit.
2 more quick influencing techniques mentioned. Dramatize your ideas.
Yeah, make it vivid. Like the cash register salesman throwing pennies on the floor to show the money literally being lost each day. Or the cold cream guy dumping competitor jars on the desk makes the point stick. Show, don't just tell.
And finally, throw down a challenge.
Appeal to that desire to excel, to compete, to prove oneself. Charles Schwab used competition in his mills. Theodore Roosevelt stayed in the governor's race partly because opponents challenged his courage.
Al Smith challenging Lewis Laws with Sing Sing Prison.
Called it the toughest job in America, basically dared him to take it on. Laws rose to the challenge and became a famous warden. That desire to overcome, to win, it's a powerful motivator for many people.
Okay, so bringing it all together. These principles, they seem simple on the surface, but they tap into really fundamental aspects of how people tick, don't they?
Absolutely. That desire for importance, wanting to be appreciated, understood, needing to feel like you're acting on your own ideas, wanting to feel capable, it all weaves together.
And the source claims they really work, based on decades of experience, revolutionize lives, improve careers, fix relationships.
Yeah, the examples suggest they are incredibly effective when applied genuinely. It's not about manipulation, it's about understanding human nature and working with it, not against it.
So for you, listening, this isn't just, interesting psychology. It's presented as a real toolkit for your everyday interactions. Meetings, emails, family chats.
Right. Applying these ideas can help you achieve your goals more effectively while building better, stronger relationships. It's about enhancing those skills William James talked about, the ones we all possess, but often let lie dormant.
Tapping into those dormant and unused assets.
Exactly. By being more intentional in how we interact.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to chew on after this deep dive. If understanding and working with human nature really is so key to success and happiness, what's just one small principle or technique we've talked about today? Maybe truly listening next time someone talks, or trying to see one tricky situation from the other person's angle, or just making a point to use someone's name.
Just pick one. What's one thing you could consciously practice starting today? And then think about how committing to just that one small change consistently, how might that start to unlock some of those unused assets within you and maybe, just maybe, begin to shift things in your world?
Lots to think about. Thanks for diving deep with us today. We hope these insights give you some valuable tools for your own connections and interactions.